Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining in today. Let's wait a couple of minutes for others to join. We keep getting this question, how goals can be relevant to the industry changes and the agility and the dynamic environment that they are in. So we thought we'll take this moment to discuss about it, how goals that drive company success, what are the industry trends and strategies. So I've also thought, I'll also bounce this around few HR leaders to understand their thought process as well. To get started, let us actually introduce ourselves to you. This is actually a community event. Our community is goals accomplished community, where we have visionaries, CEOs, and strategists in one place where they discuss about their industry challenges, the solutions that they have had, and how they have solved the problems that they have encountered. So we have a community event every month, and this is one of such event. So goals accomplishes the community. We would also share you the joining link. We invite you all to join our community as well. I think I see people joining in. Let me go ahead and start the session and introduce myself to everyone. My name is Ramya Chandrasekaran. I'm one of the co-founders of Data Legends. What Data Legends does is we are a SaaS platform. We specialize in performance enablement as a solution. And I'm also an OKR coach. I work with organizations across the globe, more than 500 teams where we have implemented OKRs. And I've been a great fan of balanced scorecard and MBO as a methodology. And it's an interesting journey so far. And goal setting has been our focus last few years. Having said that, what Data Legends does? Data Legends is a very simple and an intuitive platform which helps you to track OKRs, KPIs, and also performance reviews. We also provide performance and also OKR coaching, and we have actually worked with more than 1,000+ team in implementing OKRs through our platform. That's about the organization. That's about us and me. And let me go ahead and kind of introduce our speakers today. We have Jhanani. Jhanani is actually currently working with Gen Z on as a head people and culture, and she brings in 17+ years of experience with her. She loves yoga and music, and like me, she also loves making tea, and she is a perfectionist. That she actually expects that in making tea as well as making business presentations. And she loves music, and for that fact, I think she stays focused on what she wants to do. That helps her, I believe. And she also supports women in workplace by sharing her own experiences and also help them overcome challenges. It's a pleasure having Janani Prakaash in a session today. I've always followed her. She's very well known, and also she's won a lot of awards that actually are very interesting. And she's always some person that I always look upon to. Welcome, Janani, and let me go ahead and introduce Diksha. Diksha brings in 15+ years of experience from HR. And it is also very interesting that she also an entrepreneur and co-founder like me earlier. And I think that would actually more resonate in the challenges that we go through day in and day out. Probably we can understand from each other how she implemented goal setting for her own company. Currently, she is a director of HR for a fintech startup, and she is also engaged in various HR initiatives throughout her career, be it your performance management, digitization, or shaping a performance competence framework. She's done it all, and she's worked with multiple organizations as well. She's worked in leadership roles in pharmaceuticals, IT sectors, and she's specialized in talent management, portfolio, and complement. Having said that, welcome you both, Janani and also Diksha, to this session today. There are a lot of interesting questions that I have for you, which I wanted to share it with you. And let's start with that. So, there's been a lot of, issues which is happening, the versatilities which is happening. The industry is also growing and changing, ever changing. So what happens is that our practices, our trends should also be aligned to what is the industry agility which is happening. Be it your pandemic, be it your great resignations, whatever that happens, how do we really stay, aligned to the goal setting? Goal setting happens in a year, but within the year, there are a lot of things that happens that actually impacts the entire process. So my question to you is that to you, Janana, is that how do you really create that particular impact, right? of an old goal setting to that particular business, which is very dynamic in nature due to a lot of various factors.
Sure, Ramya. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure being here and talking this topic. I think it's extremely pertinent. Your question is how is a dynamic business? How can a dynamic business manage goal setting amidst so many changes in the industry? Is that right?
Yes, that's what I wanted to. The kind of dynamic that situation that we are in, how do we really stay on track of the goal that we set?
Sure. So I was just recalling what happened during COVID. Now, Zoom did not exist before COVID, or they existed, or they were trying to get a footprint to in the market, right? Back then, I remember Skype used to be very big, and that too mostly for only audio calls. People never used to come on video. And then you used to have video conferencing in organizations, and video conferencing specialists in technology used to be paid a certain premium because they knew something that most people did not know. Now, suddenly, pandemic came, and after the first few days, people started feeling the need to at least see others while they are talking. So Zoom became very big. They quickly inched up beyond, I mean, in billions in revenue. While several companies were sinking, they didn't know what their footprint was. And suddenly Zoom became the biggest competitor for Microsoft. Microsoft did not anticipate this, right? Now, let's take this scenario. How Microsoft quickly responded to this. They said, okay, now we are going to enhance Teams. And at that point of time, Teams was also existing and adoption was very low prior to the pandemic. Now, but Teams started becoming bigger too. But how did they penetrate into the market? They anticipated something that Zoom perhaps did not. They thought that everything is going to happen online, and therefore schools will need it. Now, if you're touching schools, they are really big. The entire forum, I mean, the entire ecosystem is really big. You touch hospitals, that's even bigger. And at that point of time, it was much more critical. Now, how Microsoft would have modified its goals in response to what happened externally in the industry to still stay ahead and become or be the market leader, right? Something for us to consider. Now, they cannot say in the beginning of the year, I have only these as goals and I'm going to stick to it. No, the pandemic came and messed up everything. Some companies stopped existing. So if you need to exist, then you need to do things very differently. So that's the level of dynamic mindset that's required when we are setting goals, especially from that time onwards, early 2020 onwards, right? Now let's take another example. This happened in 2021. I know of companies that existed. They were thinking that they're doing really well. Let's take edtech companies, right? How many edtech companies mushroomed a couple of years back, and then all schools opened up last year. Some continue to exist. How do they exist? Because they were able to pivot to how the market is going to behave and modify their offerings and incorporate it in their goals. These are just a couple of high-level examples that I wanted to throw as a food for thought, because goals have to be dynamic. All they need to know is there has to be an objective saying, I need to hit the market and be, let's say, 5 million, 10 million, whatever. That's our ultimate big objective, let's say in the next 6 months. In fact, it's like be the market leader in Dash, can be a simple objective. Then how will you substantiate that you have achieved that? That can be incremental KRs, so OKRs, right? So say that, okay, in Australia market, I want to be 5 million, or in Asia market, I want to be 5 million. There will be market dynamics. There will be change in the talent landscape. There will be change in how your leaders could be moving. Suddenly, there are new technologies that could come in. Everything could come and just shake up things. But amidst everything, I will still achieve that. And therefore, I'm going to be very watchful about what's happening. I think that's the outlook we should have. And organizations that continue to exist and is succeeding are perhaps doing this. You're on mute again.
Bad habit of mine. Very rightly said, we've also seen during the pandemic, we were also working with customers who really didn't know, who've just got, thought that they had a hang of goal setting and things like that. Things changed entirely the day they woke up, and things were very different for them. So, a few agile frameworks, right, like OKRs or something that helps you to kind of change your objectives with the agility the market has. That helps you to kind of navigate much better than setting your, metrics which are very rigid. And probably while you look out after a quarter or after a half-yearly review, probably you've lost your time but not really achieved what you're trying to achieve. So that's something which I felt is a critical for any business to adopt to the changes that we should be adopting. We should be also agile enough to do. With that, I wanted to ask one question to Diksha that, the agility that is something given when you're talking about goal setting. The challenges is also comes by with that, right? When you're talking agility, when you're also talking about goal setting frequently, there are also challenges that the company face in setting these goals, being so in a dynamic atmosphere. So, what is that your experience in that, having come from a entrepreneurial experience? Also, what are the challenges that you probably had seen, and how you had to overcome those?
Uh, so first of all, again, thank you, Ramya, and thank you everyone for being a part of this meeting. It's great to meet you all. Yes, I really liked what Jhanani said, where everything is so dynamic. So I also remember maybe a decade and a half ago when I joined the industry, where you would just come out of your master's and you get into a role of performance management or talent management. There, also I was a part of one of the biggest IT organization, and was lucky to have performance management as a first role. So that time I realized that 2007 I'm talking about, and 2008 we went through a recession. Nobody expected a recession all over, and IT industries had to really change the whole way of operating to meet that recession. So that time I saw that how right from having a structural change in the organization, changing the entire objective of the organization, and then percolating down. So we were using the balance scorecard method for goal setting. So when we talk about balance scorecard,
We lost you, Diksha. Diksha, can you hear us?
Looks like we lost her.
Yeah. Probably later rejoin, or if she lost the connection or something, probably I wanted to kind of come back to you, again, and check. There are also challenges, right, like Diksha was saying. What are the common challenges that you had come across while doing this agile goal setting process? For me, the most, when I was practicing HR, I the most often that I come across is the resistance, to the agility itself. That something is a culture and the mindset that people have, right? So, any pointers on how do we even overcome these?
Yeah, it's tricky. I think communicating what is in it for everyone is very important, Ramya.
Perfect.
I had an opportunity to be part of the pilot group of moving to ratingless performance management system. I mean, I was spearheading that. At that point of time, we had to be very creative and convince people, saying, you need to do this. And why is it that you need to do was a very important aspect. Now, let me take a step back and tell you the approach that worked. Usually, before before many changes started coming in performance management as a topic, we followed the 5-point scale, right? I think most industry, 97% of the industry would have followed 5-point scale, and the remaining 3% would have followed something more like 7-point scale, 10-point scale. Basically, we had ratings and we bucketed people under these numbers. Now, in the organization that I was in at that time was Deloitte. So 5 ratings. We were hiring the best of the people from the market. And then we said there is a guidance for bell curve, and we put 60% of the people as average. So imagine what you're going to lead them with. You get fresh graduates from the industry, go on day 0, get the cream from the college, and then say you haven't completed 1 year, therefore you're a 3. So what is it that we are communicating? And then in partnership firms or very large firms, you know that there is a rating concept and then there is a ranking concept. Okay, there is a rating. The manager says, okay, you're a 4 on 5. Very good. But then at an org level, we had to do some normalization. Therefore, you became 3. That's another difficulty. So managers don't own it. Now, if this is what it is and people anyway end up getting disappointed, then what's the point of doing performance management? Okay, fine. The other question to ask is, does it do any good to people? Does it improve performance? Does it develop people? Does it make great managers? For all of this, the answer is no. So then it just makes the case to say, okay, then is there a better way for us to do, right? So that's how, for me, the transition was easier to communicate, saying, okay, you have failed in your goals or you forgot your goals that were set last year because you open it only in the mid-year and the year-end. You have only one conversation and then always there is a surprise from your manager. Most of the times, 90% of the people were unhappy with the outcome of the performance. So why don't you try something different? And this is a pilot group. Why don't we do 2 performance management systems at the same time? One you follow the old one you follow the new one. And in the new one, we will say once in 2 weeks, you will have a check-in conversation. In that, we will give you several components to talk about. Talk about your career aspiration. Talk about where you want to head to. Talk about what technologies you have learned in the past that you're unable to use. Let's see if your manager, who is now converted into a coach, is able to find newer ways to engage you. See, the dialogue started becoming very different from a manager's perspective. They started thinking, okay, now I need to really have some true conversations and not just have transactions saying, hey, morning, I allocated this to you. Evening, have you completed it or not? No, it has to be different. So the competency of the manager to be a manager and a coach suddenly started improving. Second, they had to come and represent people and not fight for ratings. See, another difficulty, because ratings were non-existent. So they had to talk substance, which means you need to have true good conversations of substance. So that was another important aspect. Long story short, over a year or so, we could see the overall quality of the people enhancing. And then we said, it's not going to be each one in one rating, but each one will have one unique positioning from a performance standpoint, which will be a comparison to whatever it is year over year going forward. So for example, I end up it's like this, right? I was getting 83% in the last semester exam. This semester, I get 81. I have come down by 2%. I'm not comparing myself with 8 others who are similar to me. I've stopped that because normalization was bringing in comparisons that were unfair. Because you have people from all backgrounds with whom there is comparison, and then you bucket people. It's not fair. And then you're calling 60% of the people to be average, and they are your best people. So I think this is how transformation was possible. While it's a longer answer, but it's a case study. So I thought it's worth sharing here for your question.
Rightly said. It was an interesting one. Diksha, you had something to share. Yeah.
To add to this, I completely agree. Like I used to always fight with myself and the leadership that why do we have a first choice rating? So right from coming up from removing the first choice rating to having a appraisal process today, which is much more agile, like you spoke, like in my last experience we had actually, so the co-founding experience is very much where the challenge was that you need to grow in the market. So the first biggest objective of the organization was to explore different markets. So that's where we felt that OKR, where elaborate what OKR means is objective and key results for people who don't know what is OKR. What do we do is we set up the organization objective, and then each objective is broken into key results. Now, to give an example on this, I just remember what we thought is to launch a new product line by the end of quarter. So first of all, OKR, where we used to do a annual goal setting, we came to half yearly, and then some organizations follow OKR, which is maybe a monthly or a quarterly maximum, or some organizations do not have a goal setting where they follow the continuous feedback method, where they'll keep on meeting, evaluating what the individual is doing, what the team is doing, and there's feedback from down up and up down, both sides, top down and top down up, down to top, both sides. And that's where, so then that time we decided to initiate a new product line. So that was my objective. We wanted to do it in the next 2 quarters. So for what we do now in next 2 quarters, I know I have to initiate or launch a new product line. So first quarter, what are my key results, like what is that I'm expecting which will help me to achieve my objective at the end of Q2. So that's, for example, now in first quarter, I would want to research that what is happening around the market. Now, my retail organization was into car wash. You would know that the global car wash market, green car wash. So in India, what we are used to is the person coming in the morning and wiping our cars. Agreed. So we do not really send, or we do not bother what kind of a cloth he is using, what kind of a water he is using. When we talk about a green car wash, it is a little higher, of course, a little premium compared to the guy who's coming daily. But this is something where we ensure we are not wasting water. We are doing the sanitization of the car and sending it. So even if you do it weekly, it's good for the car. So this market, particularly green car wash market, is around 3.5 billion globally, very common in US and Japan specifically. But then in India, it's growing. So what we wanted to do is encourage a new product line from this green car wash. So we decided to research what's happening around the globe. So that was our first key result. What we expected, that in the first quarter we will research, we'll find out what are other companies in the same line of business doing, then develop and implement a marketing plan. And finally, what is the minimum number of sales which we want to target and achieve with this new product line? So these are my 3 or 4 maximum you can have for one objective, 3 or 4 key results which would help me achieve that objective. So this is and then this is only one, it is for organization. Now if you are reporting to me, so my one key result can be your objective, and that's how it percolates top down. And as in when you achieve your key KRs or objectives, my one KR gets a tick. So likewise, if a founder, then you divide it into different the key personnels, and then you come to the department heads. That's how you go from top to bottom. And then when the bottommost achieves the first KR, or it adds to the objective of the next level. And overall, you actually achieve your organization objective. So this is how we implemented it, but only for till the second level, till the key personnel level, because third level, of course, being in a car wash sector, was mix of skill plus unskill, but we didn't want to get into OKR methodology for them, which was not suitable. So that was one where where market challenge was the initial. It actually instigated that need to change your current performance management to a agile performance management process.
Thank you, Diksha. It's like I was actually doing a demo to my customer. You really explained OKRs really well. The way that it cascades, the way it rolls up, amazing.
Yeah.
To have having you say that and me hearing that made my day. So having said that, yeah, I mean, Janani, the last case study was very, very interesting. You spoke about one size fits all is not really working anymore. That days are gone, and we are going to customize performance management to each individual. It's not a department level and org level. It's an individual way of measuring performance management. So having said that, any key strategies that you had implemented during your what made it easier? Because now our audiences are mostly HR leaders. If you can just give two or three, tricks to the trade of the trust strategies that you used in implementing and achieving those, probably that will be a great takeaway, Janani.
Achieving what?
I was saying that any key strategies that you employed or deployed in your organization that help you to, kind of stay, dynamic as per your industry changes as well.
Okay. So let me take an example again. I think examples rhyme with people quite a bit, and therefore I choose this as a method of communication. Years before, I know that technology is always, I mean, all of us know that technology is very dynamic, and suddenly there is a new technology that comes, and then it has a different rate card when compared to all the other technologies that have always existed or existed for a few years, right? So, in one of the business groups that I was handling, we did have this situation. We did not have any backup for a particular technology. We had only about 3 people, very, very few number of folks in the industry. And it was tough for us to manage at that time. Of course, we had to take the route of retention bonus and all that. But then that was my first lesson to say, and at that point of time, I started seeing that the skill life started shrinking drastically. It was becoming 2 years or less. So that's when I, as the HR leader for the group, started reading tech trends actually. So Gartner publishes hype cycles, and I used to do a lot of industry study on what are the new varieties of technologies, what do they do, how does a particular technology start changing the life of so many people, and how a particular technology can penetrate into an organization and change their way of working. You see, it's very interesting to just keep reading some of this and then relating back to your environment. So one such example was, at that time I saw Salesforce just slowly starting. And I thought slowly many groups could move to Salesforce. So I alerted the business leaders that I was working with saying, hey, I think we need to do something for this. This could be like the next SharePoint 2013. Back then that was hot. So we said, okay, let's start training few people internally and not limited to training. We will do something called the incubation hubs, which means we will create hands-on projects and make people get trained. And this will be over and above the work timing and everything. It's only training. But who will we train is a choice that we will make. One, they have to be high performers for sure, because they've been performing well. That's one part, or at least above medium performers. Number two is they have to be in a certain skill that could probably become extinct or could lose its value over a period of time. You see, it's like you hit one stone and then you get two mangoes. So one side, I wanted to make sure my some of the skills that could potentially have an expiry date soon to get converted to skills that will have too high value in the short time. Plus, business need when it comes at all. We have some internal resources who could potentially go and sit in those roles. So we did a pilot of something called the incubation hubs, and we identified 4 such technologies. One was Salesforce, and there were 3 other technologies. We said we will train people, we will give them hands-on projects, we will run innovation contests and wait. And wait, that's it, right? We waited. To our surprise, suddenly one of the clients said, hey, we want to move everyone, the entire their platform to Salesforce. And then we had to hire like 100 people within a very short span. we could easily do a build and buy model together because we had built people and we wanted people that are internal to lead teams because there is an element of culture and ways of working plus technology and trust, right? And increased loyalty, all of this. Plus, yes, we brought people from outside as well, but it worked very well from a cost perspective and meeting business objectives. Now, I want to again tie this back to performance management. It's about, let's say, my performance management or my team's performance management is being looked at. It's about how are you able to anticipate? How are you changing your game on an everyday basis? How are you able to play that advisory role to your business leaders? How are you able to pivot their goals and make sure they are able to reach their business goals by virtue of how you're operating with them? All this, if you do well, I mean, if your business does well because of your work, you're automatically doing well. It's no brainer, right? So I think this is the case study that I would want to tell you that, it really helped to operate in this manner. And when changes were happening, we were still able to manage it with ease and grace.
Awesome, awesome. I wanted to actually take a moment and ask if there are any questions before we move on so that we can take time to answer them. People can share their questions in chat. While we move on, we'll be able to answer the questions as well. Thank you, Jhanani. The incubation was something very interesting. I remember doing that early days of my career when recession was happening in 2008. So that was the time where our budgets are also very limited in terms of training people. How do we really do the training, retain people, at the same time take a project when something comes up? So that's something which reminds me of what we did back in 2008 during the recession last time. Very interesting. So I think I have a question here. So one has written that Logan has written that he comes from a manufacturing industry, and to strike the balance between the operational and the strategic goals, right? Being a manufacturing industry, the operational KPIs are pretty intense in nature. Having that atmosphere, how do you really balance these things? The prioritization, I think that's what he means. So anyone wants to take this?
Yes, I can. Logan, can you elaborate a little when we say operational versus strategic? What would you mean? Like this goal setting would be for what level of people? For operational people or the high level people?
Let's wait for them to respond.
Okay, so overall, as a business today, when I have to set my objectives, I can't work only on strategy. Like again, I would want to emphasize agile methodology, where we again it really is an apt thing to have strategy plus operations, where my objective is something strategy, my KRs are something which are operational, with which I can achieve my objective. So that really helps us strike a balance between strategy and operations, because unless you have a strategic goal and you don't have any operational goals to achieve that strategic goal, you cannot achieve it. So it's not about balance, but it's about understanding where and how you break down your strategic goals into a set of operational goals and into a set of talent. Like one person cannot help you achieve your entire strategic goal. Like you cannot give one marketing goal to a finance person or a finance goal to a HR person. So first understanding your organizational goals, then understanding which identifying the talent who can help you achieve these goals, and then you divide your objectives in this talent or in this personnel. So it will always be a mix of strategy plus operations rather than having more of operations or more of strategy.
Thank you, Diksha. That was nicely put. To share one of my experience, the manufacturing experience, what we do is that the operational, goals, we keep it as KPIs so that,
Yes.
That is a business as usual metric, that it's a hygiene metric that we need to measure at any given point of time. All your strategy goals goes into your aspirational OKRs or an aspirational objective. To strike the balance, I would actually keep it separate, because what happens that we will give more importance to the business as usual metrics. It should be both, right? I mean, we need to do KPIs and also at the same time achieve our OKR. So that's been our experience when we did track both the metrics. Anything that you want to share, Janani?
Yeah, I have a couple of transformation examples. We all know New York Times as a newspaper company, right? Again, I think it'll come under the publishing, manufacturing. Does it come under manufacturing?
No, it would be actually in publishing.
Okay, let's take another example of ECG machines. GE did ECG machines, they manufacture, right? Now, GE first came up with a $10,000 very high-end ECG machine several years ago. Now, to operate that, the doctor has to be an MD. Then it's super expensive, and they wanted to penetrate into India market. How can it all happen? So GE said, I'm going to take a different strategy. I'm going to put a totally different team to find a way to penetrate into the India market. Now, at that point of time, who's an average Indian? We were more than 50% rural. And then in the rural side as well, you have hospitals or small clinics. You didn't have doctors back then, or even now, right? But still, ECG has to happen there. How can that happen? Which means you will need to create a machine that can be operated by non-doctors. The other end we are talking is a very sophisticated machine, which is $10,000, and then can be operated only by MDs at the minimum. So now you're talking about, okay, maybe a 12th pass compounder in India has to operate it. How can we make it, right? They took a very different approach, and they said, the team that will operate will be very different. And they identified a group of people that are innovators, young chaps who usually challenge the status quo. And then they actually ended up making a very small machine, which was about $100. It can be used by anybody because it just had a red button and a green button. You can instruct it to anyone. So you don't need basic qualification. It automatically prints. Now, there is an element of strategy here. The strategy is penetrate into the India market and become leaders in ECG. But to operationalize this, they had to think in a very innovative way and create targets saying, okay, in MP, I will have so many machines sold. In Bihar, I will have so many sold. Down south, in Tamil Nadu, I will have so many sold. Telangana, back then Telangana didn't exist. AP, I will have so many sold, right? So it's a classic case of how a strategy was, we were true to the strategy. They were true to the strategy, but then strategy cannot become successful if there is no operational success. So how can you break it to something that's implementable, translatable, and converted to money? Because money is what keeps business going. I think that's my response.
Thank you very much. And that was really a great, a story that you had. I mean, a real-time data that you shared with us. Thank you very much. I think I have one more question here. I think most of us, I mean, by the interaction, I think whatever I wanted to cover as question, I think we have taken that well in advance, and then we have actually you have answered the question that what I had in mind that I should be talking to you about. So I think there are a few questions probably, I would want to ask from the audience. One more question from Rayan, that what are some common challenges in aligning their goals? How do we know whether it's alignment is right or not? Everyone can align. Given a platform, everyone can align OKRs to the company level or a departmental level, but it should also contribute to the progress because the needle has to move with the OKRs that has been linked to that. So how do we know that alignment is a right alignment or a wrong alignment? The OKR planning or something, how effective that can be done, if you can throw some light there. It can be OKR or any other goal setting that experience that you've had earlier.
Diksha, I want to take the first shot.
Yes, in fact, more than OKR, I remember the balance scorecard. So that was the time when we were getting into a role-based organization. So defining each role, right? So a population of 1 lakh employees will had more than at 9,000 roles that time. And we were four of us who did a lot of surveys, interviews, and then we had a COE and SME team who would evaluate and see whether every role is defined correctly. The goals for each role are defined correctly. So here, when we were actually using the balance scorecard method, the whole objective of balance scorecard was initially defining the organization objectives. Now, to tell a little more about balance scorecard, are you all aware about it? So when we talk about balance scorecard, it is divided into four parts, where the vision and strategy of the organization is divided into financial, customer, internal, and learning and growth. Now, everybody may not have will have four parts, but may not have many goals in each. Like, depending on my role, suppose I'm in HR, I might have more goals in internal processes, in learning and growth, and internal customers. I may not have more financial growth. I may have one or two financial budget related goals. Now, each goal, when we set, we used to see whether it is aligning with my manager. So when a talent management head, a talent management lead, for example, that was into HR, and if I have to come to non-HR, now I would take again a function where there is a marketing head, marketing lead, marketing manager, and marketing exec. So when a marketing head's goals are set, from his goals, we come out with your marketing lead's goal, marketing manager's goal, and then percolate it down to marketing executive's role. How do we understand whether the alignment is right or not? If my marketing executive, the goal what he's achieving is affecting upward, then it is right, it is aligned. If it is not, that means we need to redefine the goals for this role. That's how we came up with a complete chart after 1.5 years exercise, where we got to understand how each role or how each goal of a person at lower level is affecting the next level, and in turn affecting the organization goal. And that's where alignment comes into picture.
Very true. Thank you, Diksha. And definitely, the planning is very, very important while you're setting goals and also aligning to check that particular balance that we need to know whether checking whether the needle is moving by what I'm actually performing, and am I really performing what is required to achieve that objective, right? Anything what we do probably can help progressing that objective, but is that the right metric? Your key result, the how factor is actually right for you to achieve that particular objective. Balance scorecard, yes, I mean, I'm a great fan of balance scorecard myself because that actually gives a lot of clarity when you're setting goals also. So that having said that, I think we'll take questions. We have little time left and we'll take the questions, and then we have only 10 minutes more. We'll be able to close it then. So there's one more question that, performance, I mean, OKRs are used for the performance management system also in current situation, though it started as a strategy execution tool. When we started 3 years ago, I was talking more about the strategy execution. How do you really connect to the company goal? And today, the output, the outcome, or the impact that particular OKR makes is actually evaluated along the performance management also. So, having said that, the entire onus goes to the manager who drives the OKR. So, how do you think that how what is the best practice to make the managers drive this particular process? That was the question here. Someone wants to take it?
According to me, digitize it. It cannot be done manually. I have tried this. So we had done through founders and then the next level, the key personnel. And we wanted them to drive it for their team. And how much ever manually you do, it's not possible for anyone to do a daily update or a weekly update on where you have reached in your KR and how much percentage you have achieved. So the whole beauty of OKR, when you digitize, you get a nice scale towards each KR. And when if you've said that, okay, by towards the end of this month, I would achieve 50%. Each individual will go and move that scale where he or she has reached. That's how you keep reviewing it. So when you have this continuous review and feedback going on within the team, automatically it gets driven by the manager and then the leadership themselves. The first step is that leadership has to believe OKR is the right step or the right methodology used for performance evaluation in the organization. Talk So it has to be driven first by the leadership, then you come to the managers where they are moving their scale and trying to add KRs to achieve their objective. And then when that objective, so when you digitize it, as the manager changes his objective or the KR, automatically the next gets can also see the change in his or her. Like if Ramya is reporting to me and she's achieving her KR, she's moving her one bit. So how it has impacted me as a leader for her, that I will be able to see in my OKR sheet. So that's actually the beauty of digitizing the entire OKR, where it is a self-driven methodology. Once each person understands how to evaluate or how to measure your goal, once there is clarity that this is my goal, this is the timeline, and then I keep on measuring it, that where have I reached. So automatically it gets aligned to your manager, and manager's goal will get aligned to the head. So I feel the best thing is to digitize the OKR.
Thank you, Diksha. Jhanani, would like to add something there?
Yeah, I think this particular aspect is the most difficult in OKR implementation. Definitely, I agree to Diksha's point. One, there has to be alignment across different levels. To your response earlier, Diksha, the other question, I think there has to be fundamental alignment. And there has to be behavioral changes. It cannot be like I want to reduce weight 5 months later and I keep running every day, but I'll eat pani puri every day evening and I'll have so many things that are junk. Then it's like we are contradicting what our aim is, right? So we will need to fundamentally change behaviors. If we want to reduce weight, then we eat right, we meditate, we keep our stress levels in check. It's like doing a host of other things that will have a positive effect on the outcome that you're looking at. Now, in this case, if you see, first of all, leadership buy-in is very important. Leadership sponsorship is important. Every time a HR person goes and talks about OKRs in front of people, there has to be somebody from the leadership talking business examples, and it has to be a collaborative effort. Otherwise, it will not succeed. And many times we might give a lot of best practices to managers, and it might be from our lens and our experience, but a business leader talking pertinent examples to that particular field in the language that they understand, I think that will enhance understanding, maturity, and commitment to follow this methodology. Number 3, give several aids to the managers, because managers are used to having transactional conversations of I've allocated this, have you completed this, right? 2, now we are saying, no. Goals will keep moving every now and then. Yes, there is a larger goal, but then market is changing, technologies are changing, how we are operating is changing, roles are transforming, right? We are doing title harmonization, whatever. Organizations are going through 8 changes at any given point of time. So if with all of this, we are going to keep changing your goals, we will have quarterly snapshots. If we say all of this, right? I think it's important to tell them how is it going to make them successful. The team members doing well is going to make managers successful. If managers are doing well, it's going to make the leadership successful. I think that communication is very critical. Next is giving them the tools of saying, what all conversations can you have? You can talk about what challenges the team members are going through. So regular check-ins have to be institutionalized. It has to become a second nature to have conversations, not over coffee, not over simple calls with 5 other people, but one-on-one, very focused on the individual. So that's another very crucial aspect. Number 3 is to adjust goals or go and have collaborative dialogue with people that are linked to that particular goal. Sometimes they might not be part of our teams, right? But we need to go and solve the problem from its root. So we need to have those conversations saying, hey, you're doing this and we are operating like this. I think these two are not aligned and therefore it's not working out. So somewhere I think managers can solve problems that were long existing, and we need to play that role of communicating how they can use this. Finally, I think OKRs or performance management that encourages frequent communications has one great, definitely a great advantage when compared to the yesteryear systems. It is about the ability to reevaluate a person's role positioning, right? I might be operating at a certain role, but for whatever reason, I'm not able to be best at it. And I'm able to have that dialogue regularly. Either I go into a performance plan or I talk about what my strengths are and where I will flourish better to my manager. And my manager can engage in the dialogue and quickly move me to something that's much more aligned to who I am as a person. So the number of low performance cases can come down, but change to what is more effective for the individual and organization. I think these are things that are what is in it for the manager. They really help if we want to implement OKRs. This is based my experience of implementing OKRs.
Perfect, Jhanani. I think that would also answer your answer the next question that we had, right? I mean, adjusting the goals. It will also affect an individual when you're continuously changing the goals as per the industry changes. We are also changing their goalpost. We are driving in one direction, and the next day we are actually changing the direction. As you rightly said, the dialogue between the conversation between the team and the manager would actually enhance that particular morale of that particular team. And 101, the focused 101 actually can make a lot of changes, because that actually instills that particular confidence of the entire process, that someone is there to actually have someone has my back, right? That's how we have to implement. I think that answers the question. I would consider that as a last question, because we are also running late. So, of wonderful questions that I've had from the audience. I think I wish I would be connecting with them to kind of listen more also later. And it was wonderful having you, Jhanani, and Diksha. Thank you for sharing your experience. And I love the examples that you both gave from Jhanani, from your GE experience, your Deloitte experience, Diksha's own co-founding experience. It's been wonderful listening to that. And as a fraternity person, I think I kind of resonate to whatever you're talking about. I've been there and had the same kind of problem statement and solved it. So thank you very much. Thanks for taking this 1 hour. I know you both are very busy, and thank you for taking this 1 hour of time and then staying connected with us. And these are the questions which we have been getting from our old customers. So I thought I'll just bounce it around to the industry experts and take answers from. So with that, actually, I sign off. Thank you very much. And while I wish that I will have you on our future panel also, so that we can have a bigger one and more, in-person event also in future planned. Thank you, both of you. Thanks, Jhanani. Thank you, Diksha. Bye. Have a great
Thanks,
evening.
Ramya, and thanks everyone for being a part of this session. It was really nice learning from you and understanding what all you want to learn. So it was really great meeting all of you. And thanks, Jhanani, and thanks, Ramya.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So before we wind up, once again, I invite you all to join our community, Goals Accomplished. We are in Slack. If anyone is looking at a one-on-one consulting or a kind of a feedback session or a review session or an audit session, feel free to write to us. and join us Slack community as well. Thank you very much. It's wonderful having you all. The questions from the audience was really very interesting. I think I can understand their experience level and the challenges that they have been through in implementing these. So I look forward to talking to all again, one-on-one. Till then, sign off, Ramya. Bye. Thank you.